Okay, it would appear that I am once again live simultaneously on Facebook and Instagram for as long as my very old phone battery will last. Instagram is telling me to hang on while we tell followers that you've started a live video. Bless its heart. I'm not expecting too many to jump on because it's not a particularly good time of day. But the point is you will be able to watch it back later. So, today my plan is to talk about readings at a wedding. And I probably will end up with a little bit of self-aggrandisement today because readings, poetry, that sort of stuff, that really is my forte, my jam, what gives me an awful lot of pleasure. But to explain about readings at a wedding, and I always hark back to TV shows because I know that a lot of you, the first wedding you ever go to will be your own, and your only experience of what is meant to happen at a wedding is what you see on sitcoms, essentially. Or you may have been to weddings years ago in churches, and people associate a reading with a Bible passage. And it's definitely not that at your secular celebration with a civil celebrant. And people also have this idea that a reading has to be delivered by a guest at the wedding. Now, if I was at your wedding and you didn't ask me to read something, I'd be a little miffed. But I'm the exception. Most people will be nervous and won't necessarily want to. If you have a friend or a relative who's used to this sort of thing and would really love to get up and read something for you, that's great. But don't leave it out because you think you've got no one to ask. We do it for a living and we're all pretty good at it. It doesn't have to be poetry, what you choose for a reading at your wedding. It can be a quote or a short piece of prose. It doesn't have to be long. It seems to me that the best relationships, the ones that last, are frequently the ones that are rooted in friendship. You know, one day you look at that person and you see something more than you saw the night before. Like a switch has been flicked somewhere. And the person who was just a friend is suddenly the only person you can ever imagine yourself with. Dana Scully, The X-Files. Why do we put readings in weddings? To add atmosphere and to help set a tone for the wedding, particularly if you're having a simpler ceremony where the celebrant isn't telling your story in full. Perhaps it's a small wedding or an elopement where there's only half a dozen or so people there and they all know the story already. Choosing a reading can help personalise that ceremony to the next level, particularly if you've chosen something that's really meaningful to you as a couple, or if you've had something written for you. There are two places in a ceremony that I like to include a reading, and one is quite early on. You all do your walk in, your guests are welcomed. I will if you're having a giving away or a presentation, we'll do that. And then I will deliver the first part of the celebrant's moniton where I introduce myself and introduce you as the marrying couple. And then before I launch into your story, I like to have chosen a reading that is about you. Something that's really personal. I began a ceremony or led into the story one day about a couple who had met while they were living on the same floor of halls of residence at Sydney University, and I began neighbours. Everybody needs good neighbours, and with a little understanding you can find the perfect blend. Now, neighbours should be there for one another, and that's when neighbours become good friends, or lovers, or husband and wife as they are today. And of course that was the lyrics to the theme song from Neighbours. And by the end of it, I think a few people in the background were humming along. It went down really well. The second place I like to include a reading is after we've gone off and signed all the paperwork. People have been sort of left to their own devices for probably a good 10 minutes because 5 people are signing 3 documents, and then there's a lot of faff with the photographer at the signing table. They will style shots, and I usually put my hand up for one then. But people have drifted off. They've started talking, and I find a really good way to get their attention and their focus back on you and the last part of proceedings. I will walk up to the microphone and just launch into some sort of poetry or reading that you've chosen. After the signing, I prefer to do something that is more about your relationship rather than your hobbies. But again, that's always up to you. One that I finished with for a couple that I married, about 18 months ago now, had both had a history of tumultuous relationships before they found each other. And I wrote this for them. Come with me on a trip to the rest of our lives as I pledge my life to you today. I can't promise calm waters or a road paved with gold or a lantern to show us the way. What I will guarantee is that it won't be dull, or that each day will seem like the last. I can promise to be there for each forward step, and when storms hit, to then hold you fast. So ignore all the baggage that dwells in our past. From today, we will not be the same. We are strong, we are kind, we are loved, we are whole, now that we share a last name. Not a dry eye in the house, I can assure you. So it's a really nice way to get people's attention back before we then go on to the final, wishing you well and congratulating you before the final hurrah. So how do you find a good reading if I'm not writing it for you? Google, absolutely Google, but be really specific. If you just put into a search engine readings for weddings, you'll get all sorts of stuff. Some of it will be good and some of it will be schmaltzy and you might not like it. Some of it will be hit the nail on the head. But when you do your Google search, be really specific. Google wedding readings for kids who like camping. I did actually once for a ghostwriting project, just type in Brooklyn Nine-Nine wedding sayings, and I got a huge amount to choose from. So be really specific. Doctor Who wedding quotes. You'll get stuff. The other good thing to draw on is lyrics to songs. You've probably got a song that you really like. There might even be a song that you're playing for your processional. Why can't we read the lyrics to that? Look, country songs, and if you don't like country songs, well, why are you even here? But if you don't like country songs, don't dismiss the idea of the lyrics. There's a song by a band called Rascal Flatts that goes, every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart were like guiding stars, leading me on my way into your loving arms. So this much I know to be true. God blessed the broken road that led me to you. And that brings me to another point, which is you might need to adapt them. Now, in that lyric, as it's written, it says northern stars, which will mean nothing to us in the southern hemisphere. So I change it to guiding stars, and the meaning is explicit. Look up songs of artists you like. And even if, as it's written, it may not appear exactly right to be read, you or your celebrant who is experienced at this can probably adapt them. I was sent the lyrics the night before a wedding by a lass for a song, and remember I'm 60 years old, by somebody called Camila Cabello, of whom I'd never heard. But I looked up the lyric and I played the song and I thought, well, that's interesting. Not quite Shakespeare, which, I'm more comfortable with. But I think I made a reasonable fist of this. I did change it just slightly. This couple were amazing. Like, the groom rocked up on his Harley. It was awesome. It was an awesome wedding. But this is what I read for them. Something must have gone wrong in my brain because I've got your chemicals all in my veins, just like nicotine, heroin and morphine. Suddenly I'm a fiend and you're all I need. Yeah, you're all I need. And I'm a sucker for the way you move, babe. And I could try to run, but it would be useless. You're to blame. Just one hit of you, and I knew I'd never be the same. From just one touch, I could overdose, and you said, stop playing it safe, girl. I want to see you lose control. And just like nicotine, heroin and morphine, suddenly I'm a fiend. And you're all I need. It's you, babe. You're all I need. And that went down really well with the people I was reading to. There will be something. And Google is your absolute best friend, but don't use generic terms. Be absolutely specific. Now, one of the things I can do is obviously write stuff specially for you. I do it a lot for funerals, sometimes for weddings, and what I will do is, after I get to know a couple, I'll write a few poems for them myself, and then just shoot them through anonymously with other things that I think might be nice for them, that I think will suit their vibe. 9 times out of 10, they will choose one of mine. So any of you celebrants watching, and I know I have a lot of celebrants who follow me, if you would like something specific done for your clients, get in touch, because I am able to copy any style. I did sent some readings over to a couple last year who were huge Game of Thrones fans. Now, I'm probably one of the 5 people in Brisbane that's never watched Game of Thrones, and I know who the other 4 are. But I Googled, came up with, was presented with a few things, and I typed this one out and said, listen, what about this? Bride came back to me with, oh, we love that quote, but these people got married and then this bad thing happened and that bad thing happened and they died and they murdered somebody, so probably not. And I went, okay, you like that style. So I wrote a poem in that same flowery language, which they absolutely adored and were used as our closing thing. So, in some shameless self-promotion, I am now going to just let you in on how easy it is for me to copy styles, telling you about my own business, which is called Moreton Bay Celebrity. Dr. Seuss. Based near the shores of Moreton Bay, I'll celebrate your special day. Whether you be near or far, the party comes to where you are. Were you born or did you die? Or is it for the knot to tie? Come celebrate the day in style with Sally and her famous smile. But you might prefer Banjo Patterson. The lady came from Brisbane with a microphone in tow to celebrate the wedding of the farm girl and her beau. 6 months later, back again to bless the newborn babe and say kind words in memory of Grandpa by his grave. Or you might be a little more highbrow. Personally, I love Shakespeare, but reading it is boring as crap. Saying it out loud makes a huge difference. So in the style of Shakespeare. Dost thou a promise to thy true love make with ring exchange and making solemn vows? To bless in sickness and in health, to take from this day on until the lifeblood goes. Once comes a child to bless this happy two, or life extinct in someone else who's dear. This lady speaketh kindly to the new and helps you face the sadness without fear. Yeah, I know, I'm a total show-off. It's called iambic pentameter, and so it's like 10 syllables, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, every second line rhymes. Most of Shakespeare is written that way, but you lose the rhyme because we now don't speak in the same accents they spoke in Elizabethan Britain. Yeah, so look, there are lots of places to find readings for a wedding, even if it's just a couple of lines as a quote here and there. It really will enhance the experience of your guests. It will help them to focus on what we're about to do next. It will add a whole heap of atmosphere and make the whole experience so much more personal. Look, if you would like me to write something for you, it's as easy as a DM. If you would like any more advice on readings and how to choose them, a little bit of help in presenting them even maybe, I'm always here and I'm always available to answer questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I didn't get too long-winded like I have the last couple of times. God bless everybody.